This is a tutorial video on how to capture HDR, high dynamic range, or reflection-free images. This is useful in situations where parts of the sample that are in the same field of view are either oversaturated or underlit. And so where there's a fight, so to speak, to properly illuminate various parts of the same sample, you can utilize the high dynamic range tool or the capture reflection free image tool to get an image with everything optimally in focus. So those modules are found up under the applications window. The first option is to capture reflection free image. So left click applications and then left click capture reflection free image. The software will take a few seconds to then capture an image with everything optimally exposed. As you can see here, all the layers are now visible, and then I can left click save and then choose where I want to save my part, or save the image rather. Hit save, and then that image is saved. The other mode that's available, let's zoom out really quick, just kind of center that, we were zoomed in pretty high before, is go to applications and then capture HDR image. This is the other option that you have. So if you left click capture HDR image, then a window appears that displays your current exposure time. You see here we're at 1.4 milliseconds. That's what's showed here. Then we can set a range for the high exposure time, which will allow for pixels that are darker to be overexposed and make the image brighter. So I can left click either of these arrows and use my range as a reference and my current image as a reference. If I notice that there are regions of the image that are very, very dark and need to get more light onto them, I can increase my high exposure time. Conversely, on the low end, if I see that there are regions of my sample that are overexposed, that are oversaturated, and that need to be darkened, so to speak, I can set my exposure time so that it's lower. So I can just adjust. So once I set my high exposure time and my low exposure time, which should properly surround this current exposure time, I can then choose a number of steps or images that are going to be captured within this exposure range. So for example, based on my high of 70 milliseconds and my low of 160 microseconds, if I left click auto, the software determines that 7 images will be captured starting at the low and ending at the high. If I want to add more images, I can. The maximum is going to be 16 images that I can capture. So maybe we'll pretend that we know better than the software and we'll say we'll do 9 images. The next thing to click is create HDR document with multiple exposed images. So if we left click this will give us an image with everything optimally exposed. So once I've set my high range, my low range, I've set the number of steps or images that I'm going to capture, and I've left clicked create HDR document with multiple exposed images. Now I left click OK. And then the software will begin to capture. It's doing it very quickly, but what it's done is it's captured images at various exposure times. So this HDR tab is showing me my image with everything optimally exposed. This is the final image. This is the image that I want to take away. But if I want, I can left click and I can go through. I can just left click on each of these exposure times that were automatically set when we set our 7 image range. So you see here, by the time you get to 10 milliseconds, there's really not much useful. So truly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7 images that the software determined were adequate. We didn't need to go all the way up to 9. Lesson learned. We won't do that again. So then we can click through and just look at the various exposed images. To save this image, it's important. You need to click on HDR image. Make sure that this is the image that's open, this tab, and then say Edit, and then Create View Snapshot. Or also, you can press the X key on the keyboard without having to even go into this menu. So there's 2 options here. So it's left click edit, left click create view snapshot, or simply press the X on the keyboard. So we'll left click this option, and then now we have a snapshot as it shows up at the top of the software. So then, as we do with other images that we've captured, we can left click, and then we can choose the save to location, save the file format, amount of compression, and then we can do create view snapshot of, and we can name it, say, HDR image sequence, and then say save. And then we go out to our desktop where we had saved it, right here. And so then this is the final image. So that's the tutorial on how to capture either reflection-free image or have more control and more variable, more adjustability when we select capture HDR image.